Good morning, everybody, and welcome to PSG of Mercer County. The Professional Service Group of Mercer County is a group that is here for you or for anyone in career transition, not just in Central New Jersey, but we make our program available to anybody who wants to participate. In addition to good morning, it's Happy Aloha Friday. So as most of you know, if you met me before, I do wear my Hawaiian shirt on a Friday. We typically wear that all day for Aloha Friday. That's Casual Friday in Hawaii. And so when I heard about that, I just thought that was too cool, and I just wanted to do that. So I do wear my Hawaiian shirt. And as you join our meetings in the future, you're always welcome to wear an Hawaiian or colorful shirt as well. In addition to being Aloha Friday, I see a lot of you are dressed appropriately for National Wear Blue Day. And if you're not sure, just look down and see if you're wearing blue. And so I've got my blue Hawaiian shirt. This is as blue as I could find in my Hawaii shirts. And so it is a celebration, National Wear Blue. And it's really meant to raise awareness and to learn about the causes of colon cancer. So there was a pink day not long ago. That was awareness of breast cancer. This is the raise awareness for colon cancer. So hopefully everyone is being attentive to that. PSG of Mercer County does provide resources, information, educational opportunities, all sorts of help as much as possible to help you be more efficient and more effective in your own job search. We can't find you a job, it's not what we do, but we can give you the resources so that you can be more efficient and effective in your own job search. We have a number of resources, among which is our LinkedIn group. And you can go on to LinkedIn and search for the group. It is called PSG of Mercer County. And I do encourage you, if you're not yet a member of our group, please do so. We are 1,700 members strong in our LinkedIn group. And these are all people who have been through one of our programs, whether they visited us in person in the past or they continue to visit us online right now. What that means is we do our best to keep kind of the list collectors, the name collectors, the salespeople out, not salespeople as a career, but salespeople who are looking just for a large group of people they can sell to. And so that's why what we do is when you do request, or anyone requests to join our group, we do check our attendance rolls to see if you've been with us before. Even our online meeting group does give me names who attended each week, so I do check. And if not, then I will reach out to the person and just ask them to please come to a meeting. And so right now we're 1,700 members strong. Our members do contribute articles, job leads, all sorts of information. You know, we do only want people who are supportive and of the mindset to share and help in job seekers support and help job search. And what's nice about joining any LinkedIn group, and certainly our group as well, is it doesn't matter how many first-degree connections that you have. You may have a few or you may have thousands, but anyone in a group is someone you can write to, not just connect, but write to, even if they are not a first-degree connection. So as part of your job search, if you said, gee, I really wish I knew somebody at the ABC company that you're not connected to, you may be connected to somebody through a group, and then you can write to them. So if you want to add up to 1,700 people to your connections, join our group. We do also have our website. Our website is psgofmercercounty.org. It's a website we're very proud of. It's not just a landing page or introduce our group, a way to find us. It is over 120 web pages of content. And one of the pages that we have is our event calendar. Sounds like a simple thing, but our event calendar, we do keep populated about 3 months out or so with the presenters and the programs that we have coming up. So I do encourage you to look at our event calendar. Thanks to Kathy, who's on our call. She is the keeper of our calendar and chair of our presentation committee. And so do look at our event calendar page. It is also the place, if you miss the email from us, each week we do have that week's connection info for the GoToMeeting that we have. So if you find it nowhere else, you can go to our event calendar. We typically only keep the current week's connection info just to minimize confusion. So check out our event calendar, because you may find a presenter who will be attending and presenting to us in a few weeks, or a topic of interest in a few weeks, and you're going to want to make sure that you don't miss that. You kind of put that on your own event calendar, that you should visit us on that particular Friday morning. So those are among the resources that we have. So as a reminder, the ground rules today, we are asking you to use chat for your Q&A. You can either just type the word question, the digital equivalent of raising your hand. GoToMeeting does not have a Q&A option the way Zoom does. So just type the word question. And that's kind of me knowing that you have a question. If you type your question without the word question, I hope I don't miss it, but that could happen. Or type the word question as well as your question, as a follow-up to something Lou has, or to ask him more information, and I will read that on your behalf. If you just write the word question, we'll ask you to unmute at that time, and you can speak with him directly. Otherwise, we do ask, as long as there's not a request from Lou to ask questions, do keep your microphones on mute just to minimize any potential background noise and keep the program going just a little bit more smoothly. And with that, so Lou, I did make you a presenter. You feel free to share your screen anytime you're ready to do so. And I'm happy to say that PSG of Mercer County is pleased to welcome back Louis Maltby. Lou is the president of the National Work Rights Institute. He has the unique perspective of having both been an HR director and a public interest lawyer. Before leaving the corporate world to become the first director of the ACLU's National Employment Rights Office, Lou was the executive vice president and general counsel for Drexel Brook Controls, Inc., where his responsibilities included the Human Resources Department. You may have seen Lou before. Of course, he's been here, but he's been quoted in the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and other newspapers across America. He's appeared on 60 Minutes, National Public Radio, CNN, Oprah, and many other television and radio shows. C-SPAN junkies may have seen Lou on one of his many appearances before testifying in front of Congress. Lou's presentation today is called Navigating the Pre-Employment Screening Minefield. You all know that employers use a variety of pre-employment screens, including criminal background checks, credit reports, drug testing, and reference checks. Any one of these can cause you to lose that job opportunity you otherwise would have had. PSG of Mercer County is very pleased to welcome Louis Maltby.
Thank you, David. Thank you for inviting me. And we're all looking forward to the day when you talk to the person making the hiring decision and he says, you're the person we want. This is great. And you just breathe a big sigh of relief because you finally got a job, except that not quite. Because no matter how much the person who's making the hiring decision wants you, you've got to clear the minefield. And if you don't get the job. It doesn't make a great deal of sense that the minefield overrules the judgment of the person filling the position, but that's how it works in most places. And the first mine in the minefield is a credit check. Now, you would probably think this isn't much of a concern because the job you're getting doesn't involve handling money. It doesn't involve financial responsibilities. So why would they want a credit check on me? I don't know, but there's a very good chance they'll run one even when there's absolutely no reason to do it. You might also think, well, I pay my bills on time. I handle my money properly. I don't have anything to worry about. Let them run a credit check on me. Now, unfortunately, that's a little too simple too, because the companies that do credit checks really don't have anything remotely resembling quality control. They just suck up data and they report data. And if there's somebody else with your name that has bad credit, it could bite you. If some merchant says you didn't pay your bills on time and it's not true, nobody at the credit check company is going to check to see if it's true. They just put it in that you didn't pay on time, and it shows up on the report. So unfortunately, there are lots and lots of mistakes on credit reports. Now, the good news is you can fix them. You actually can fix them. The not so good news is that it takes time. The credit check companies deliberately make it difficult and time consuming for you to fix an error in your credit report. It's a long story, don't ask me, but they do. And the bottom line of all this is if you wait until your boss prospective boss tells you, I really wanted to hire you, but there's a problem with your credit report, by the time you get it fixed, it will be too late. The job will no longer be open. It'll have been given to somebody else. So the takeaway from all this is, if you're looking for a job, check your credit report yourself. And if there's something wrong, get it fixed. And there's a lot of places you can get a credit report. Some are better than others. This is the best one of all to use, the one that's on the screen now. You get your credit report from this source, and the procedures to fix a mistake are in the report, and they're not that hard to follow. It just takes more time than you're going to have if it pops up at the time when the job is on the line. So that's the credit check situation, and it can be a serious problem, but if you do the right thing, it won't be a problem. However, of course, you know, if your credit's not that good, you can't correct the mistake if it's not a mistake. So if you were out of work for 6 months, or you had huge medical bills and it got you behind on your other bills, just be able to just document that. And if the credit report shows up and it's accurate, just be able to show the hiring manager. Don't just say it, be able to demonstrate it. Well, this was a very limited point in time, and it was because I had huge hospital bills, and the whole rest of my life, I've been very good at paying my bills. And if you have a rational explanation and you've got the documentation to show it, not the encyclopedia, but just a few pages, it should be okay. Now, here's the second line, which is criminal records. It used to be that employers running criminal record checks was relatively uncommon. Now it's becoming very, very common. And it doesn't take a terrible felony conviction to keep you from getting a job. Now, there's a little bit of good news here. One is that in New Jersey, we have the Opportunity to Compete Act, which is something you may have heard of called ban the box, which means prospective employer can't ask you about a criminal record until after at least the first interview. So at least by the time the criminal record check comes up, the company will know who you are. They will have a sense of that whether they like you or not, and they'll be less likely to bounce your resume into the wastebasket if the record shows up, because you're not just a faceless resume anymore. You're a real person that they're kind of interested in. But again, criminal records can also have mistakes in them. And the way this works is under the Federal Fair Credit Reporting Act, the employer will have to, they cannot bounce your application without showing you the record first and showing you we're not going to hire you or considering not hiring you because you have this particular conviction. So if this is a problem, it won't be a mystery. A lot of times when you don't get the job, they don't tell you why, and you have no idea. If it's a criminal record, the company is legally obligated to tell you we're considering rescinding that potential offer because of your criminal record and because of this particular offense. So at least you know what you're dealing with. And again, the best opportunity is get the record yourself before you're sitting there across the desk from the HR guy. If you're starting a job search, get your own criminal record and see if it's accurate. And if it's not, then you can get it corrected, and your potential boss won't find out about a conviction that isn't really yours. Or at worst, if the company is concerned about the record, you can tell them this particular offense, that's not me, that's somebody else with my name. Go back and check with your background checking company, and you'll find out it's not me. So again, mistakes do happen, but if you're proactive, you can generally keep them from doing you a great deal of harm. One very, very, very important thing. Don't try to pretend, if you've got a record, don't try to pretend you don't. Don't tell them if they ask you at the interview, do you have a criminal record? If you have one, tell them the truth. Because it may have happened in Utah 27 years ago, but computers have integrated to the point where a criminal record in some other state 20 years ago will very likely show up on a job search today 2,000 miles away. So don't say you don't have it on the assumption they won't find it, because they almost certainly will find it. And if you don't tell the truth, you're roadkill. If it was a relatively minor offense a long time ago, if it's not really related to the job, it was a DUI and the job doesn't involve driving, there's a reasonable chance that they'll hire you anyway. But if you tell them you don't have a record and then they find the record, even if they would have hired you anyway, the fact you didn't tell the truth about it, I don't know a company in the world that will consider you at that point. If you don't tell the truth about the record, the job's gone. So one thing you don't want to do is try to bluff your way out of it. That never works. Correct the record if you can, and if you can't, explain the circumstances. And so maybe if it's not all that bad, maybe they'll understand it wasn't all that bad. Now, the next hurdle is the drug test. And the first thing everybody needs to know is that we all know that marijuana is now legal in New Jersey. It is not a crime to smoke pot anymore. You could walk down Nassau Street smoking a joint and offer a toke to the police officer. He can't do anything to you. This has no impact whatsoever on employers. The change in New Jersey law says that the police can't arrest you for marijuana. It doesn't say an employer can't fire you or refuse to hire you for smoking marijuana. You might think that now that marijuana is legal in New Jersey, that employers wouldn't make you pee in a jar anymore and refuse to hire you if you test positive. It's not happening that way. Maybe someday employers will catch up to the state of the law and they'll stop making people take a drug test before the job. But it hasn't happened yet, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. So despite the change in the law, pre-employment drug tests are still happening. And in case you don't know it, if you fail, you're cooked. It's not like a criminal record where if you were shoplifting as a teenager, they might hire you anyway because it's not so terrible. For reasons I do not understand, if you fail the pre-employment drug test, you're not gonna get hired. It doesn't matter how good a performer you are. It doesn't matter if the guy who's making the hiring decision smokes pot himself. Company rules just won't permit them to hire you if you flunked the drug test and you just lost the job. Again.
Oh, excuse me, Lou?
Oh, yes.
There's a question from Alex about the prior slide. Does
I'm
it
sorry.
the criminal background check or criminal record, does it cost money to get your own criminal record? And I guess what Alex means is not by committing a crime. Of course, if you commit a crime, you get a criminal record, but to uncover your criminal record.
No, it's not. None of these are expensive to get. The credit check is free, and getting the criminal record check is, if it's not free, the cost is relatively minimal. There's no economic hurdles in any of this.
Thank you.
And now back on the drug testing, there's two things to be concerned about. One, of course, is if you actually do smoke pot. We'll put that aside for a minute. The other one is that sometimes the tests are wrong. There are these. The tests are. There's a thing called cross-reactivity, where there are certain medications, including over-the-counter medications, that can show up as illegal drugs on a drug test. It happens. And when the company is giving you a drug test, there's someone involved called the medical review officer. And it's their job to say, oh, this guy is taking this particular medication. That's why he failed the drug test. So he tells the company the test was negative. But you can't just tell the medical review officer, oh, after the positive test comes back, oh, that's because I take blah, blah, blah. That may not work. If you're taking any kind of prescription medication, take copies of the prescription with you and show them to the medical review officer in advance if you can, so they will know what medication you're taking. It's always better to head a mistake off at the pass than it is to try to fix it after it happens. So if you keep track of what you're taking and keep your records of your prescriptions and take them with you, this shouldn't be a problem. You could do it after the fact, perhaps, but it's better, again, to just be prepared if you're taking prescription medication on the chance that it might cause you to fail the test.
Excuse me, Lou. Yep,
yes.
there's another question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No, yeah, that's fine. It's in the chat. Excuse me, are the recruiters required to tell you which checks will be run on you as a prospective candidate, drugs, criminal, etc.? Are such checks more common for jobs in certain industries and not in some other industries?
First answer, unfortunately, is no. Employers are not required to tell you what background checks they're going to run. You can ask, but I'm not sure I'd recommend it. Unfortunately, I think if you ask what sort of pre-employment checks you're going to run, the person on the other side of the desk might read that as you being concerned about something that that's going to be a concern to them. So unfortunately, I would be inclined not to ask. However, there is one thing along those lines that is not really the subject of this presentation, but it's very worth doing. I remember when I was running an HR department, if we were going to hire you, I knew everything there was about you. I knew you, where you went to school. I know what your grades were. I knew every job you ever had, including your summer jobs. And I talked to the guys you worked for. And I knew everything I needed to know to see if you'd be a good hire. And people, even experienced people with a lot of years of work and sophistication, would just walk in, and if they got the job, they took it. And they didn't know a damn thing about our company. They didn't know what it was like to work here. And you were talking before about that person who'd written the description of what a certain company was like to work for. one thing you really should do anyway, if you can, is before you go to work for somebody and make that huge investment, find out, you must know somebody who knows somebody who works there, and talk to them. Talk to them about what kind of a place it is to work for. Maybe it's a great place to work. Maybe it's a terrible place to work and you don't want to go there. And in the process of finding out what kind of company this is to work for, you could find out what sort of pre-employment checks were run. That would be something you should do anyway, and in the process, you might find out something about the pre-employment checks. Other than that, you have to assume they're going to run all of them because they're all extremely common.
Okay, there's also a question, or maybe just a comment from Charlie. Expungement of records are part of legalization of pot. Charlie, I'm just wondering, did you only want to make a comment because you did write it as question, or did you have another question? Feel free, just unmute yourself.
I wanted confirmation, that's all.
Okay, so is that true that expungement of records are part of the legalization of pot?
I don't know if the expungement is automatic or not.
It was, what I heard, I think you had to apply for it.
That's my impression. You can get it, but you have to apply for it. Getting a record expunged, it's really very difficult to do on your own. You almost have to have a lawyer, I'm afraid, but fortunately it doesn't cost a fortune. And actually, on that point, if you actually had been convicted of something other than this, because it's not a crime anymore, you can't expunge a record. It doesn't work that way. If you did it, you did it. Mm-hmm. But if you were not convicted of something, it is possible to get the record expunged. And the company is not supposed to hold it against you if you were arrested for something but not convicted. But it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't help you. So if you were charged with something once, particularly something halfway serious, if you were not convicted, it is worth the time and the trouble to get a lawyer to get the arrest that did not result in a conviction expunged and just get it out of there.
Mm. Okay. Of course, as states move, as other states follow New Jersey, those people who maybe did something in college way back when in another state might want to follow the news when they went to school.
And so the big thing here is if you happen to be one of the millions of people in New Jersey that do smoke marijuana occasionally, it's not going to be a problem if you do the right thing. Don't take the test and assume you'll test negative because you don't smoke very often. It's a crapshoot. The more you smoke, the more often you smoke, the more likely you are to test positive. But the process of the body metabolizing THC is not linear. It's not like the alcohol and a breathalyzer. It's possible not to smoke very often and still test positive. You can't bet the job on minimal smoking not producing a positive result. It's just not a risk you can afford to take. Secondly, do not try to cheat. Do not clip that ad in the back page of Rolling Stone that says for $12.95 they'll send you something and you can beat the urine test. There's a good chance it won't work, and there's also a good chance if you do it, you'll get caught. These drug testing companies are pretty sophisticated. If there's something that's stuck in that urine that's supposed to make it test negative, they know how to test for those sorts of things. Throw Rolling Stone in the wastebasket. Don't even think about it. the answer is simple. If you're on the job market, switch to beer for a while. Marijuana doesn't stay in your system very long. A few days most of the time. So if you're out job searching for even a few weeks, if you decide to switch to beer when you start looking for a job, by the time you roll around to the interview and everything else and get around to that drug test, you'll pass. You will pass. So just lay off the pot while you're looking for a job and you'll be fine. It's that simple. And
There's
then
another question from Michael. And by the way, I don't think you're advocating showing up to the interview drunk. So be careful. We have Alex Freund, who's an interview coach, and I'm sure he's never said drink a lot of beer before your interview. So just a word of caution, caveat there.
no, I mean, if you do not want to show up for a job interview, even with alcohol on your breath, oh my God, not that. But
yeah.
you're sitting at home on Saturday night watching a movie. If you're looking for a job and you want to unwind, drink a beer, don't smoke a joint. You can go back to smoking the joint after you get the job.
Okay. Anyway, there is a question from Michael. Since medical marijuana is legal and discrimination against the disabled is not legal, how does that work?
That is a very, very, very good question. It's one of the little insanities of the law. If you look at the definition of disability under federal and state law, it would include someone who's disabled because they use drugs. However, the definition has a big except at the end that says, if you're disabled because you use drugs, you aren't protected. So that's what happens. Even though you have a medical condition and you have this drug use that's connected to the medical condition, medical marijuana status does not help you when it comes to getting a job. I don't think you would lose the job over medical marijuana. But the fact that you're taking marijuana legally for a medical reason doesn't exempt you from drug testing, unfortunately. It's not fair, but they don't have to ignore it. And I think as a practical matter, it probably depends a lot on what the medical reason is. This is just sort of my sense of things. But if you've got cancer and you've got medical marijuana to help you deal with the nausea from chemo, I don't think many employers are going to hold it against you. If you have something that looks, some doctors will hand these prescriptions out for relatively minor conditions. If you've got one of those deals, it might not go so well with employment. I think if I were in a state where it was medical marijuana, which doesn't matter in New Jersey anymore because it's all legal, I think I would probably stop using the medical marijuana while I was looking for a job unless I really needed it. Does that help?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was going at. Not that the drug itself made you disabled, but having been around a lot of people who have had cancer, and have been in horrible pain and things like that. That's what I was more thinking of. The last company I worked for, since they dealt in all 50 states, because they dealt with bonds for low-income housing, they had to treat their rules as if they were actually in a state where medical marijuana wasn't legal. Because if you were doing work for a client in Nebraska, for instance, even though you're living in New York and working in New York, they had to treat you by the rules whatever state your client was in.
Well, that's true. If you have a national corporation, they're not going to have a different policy in every state very often, and they'll take what I would call the worst state law to use as their standard. Now, unfortunately, I mean, medical marijuana is a step forward in the world. But again, that's a change in the criminal law. Medical marijuana, it depends on the state, but in most states, the fact that the police can't arrest you for using marijuana if you have a prescription from your doctor doesn't mean that the company can't hold it against you in a hiring decision. It's not fair, but that's generally how it is. Now, the last hurdle here is the references. Everybody knows that employers check references. They actually should do it more than they do. But for some, the question is, what reference do you give them? And people tend to hand the general company number to their prospective employer. Well, if your new employer calls the company a switchboard, they're going to get sent to HR. HR has been very carefully drilled by the legal department not to tell your prospective new employer anything useful. All they say is, yes, David Suckman worked here from this year to that year, and this was the job that he had. Period. That's all they're going to tell him. Well, if you did a good job at the former company, you want someone at the former company to tell your prospective new employer what a good job you did. HR is not going to do that. No matter how good you were, they're not going to do it. So don't give them the phone number for HR. If you're looking for a job and you know you're going to need references, go talk to your previous supervisors and tell them, I'm on the job market. Do you mind if I give somebody, prospective employers, your phone number? And if you did a good job for them, they'll probably say yes. And then you give their personal phone number to your prospective new employer, and they'll call your old supervisor, and your old supervisor will tell them what a wonderful job you did. It's not like HR is going to hurt you, but HR is not going to help you. They're not going to say all the good things about you on the reference check that your former supervisor could. So if you really did a good job on your previous jobs, then use your previous supervisors as references if they'll permit you to, and they generally will, so that all the good things you did in your previous jobs will be heard by your prospective new employer. And that's the last mine in the minefield.
Oh, excuse me, Lou. There's
yes.
a question about references from John. What do you suggest the approach will be when it is an organization policy not to provide references, at least not from an employee, but from a third-party provider?
Say that again, David.
So, John, why don't you unmute and you can clarify that?
Yes, thank you, David. One of my former employers had a policy that they do not provide reference, at least no employee is authorized to provide reference to departing employee. On your last day, you are given a third-party provider number that you have to provide to your prospective employer that they should call for any reference. And they tell you off the bat that they will confirm your rank, your salary, and perhaps the length of time you were associated with. So I know that your counsel is to avoid, third party, but again, when the company tells you off the bat that that's the only way you get any reference from us is to go through this third party, are there ways that we could navigate that?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because every company in America that I've ever encountered has that policy, that we only give out name, rank, and serial number. That's all you give out. And for every major position I filled, and there were lots of them, I called the person's former supervisor, and it wasn't a surprise. The person I was considering had gone to their former boss and said, "Boss, I'm out of work. I'm interviewing for this job at a place called Drexelbrook Controls. I'm on the short list, and I really want this job. Would you mind talking to this guy named Lou Maltby, who's the hiring person at this firm, if he wants to talk to you?" And you know what? The answer was always yes. The former supervisor either didn't know about the corporate policy or just ignored it, because if you did a good job for them, they like you, they want to help you, and most of the time they're gonna talk to somebody from the new company if they're asked. So the policy's there all the time. Just pretend it doesn't exist, and your former supervisor will probably help you if you talk to them about it. Because if you did a good job, they want to help you. They're not gonna say you were better than you were. They're not gonna lie for you. But if you did a good job, they're gonna tell your prospective employer about it if you ask them to. They generally won't clam up because of the policy. So
And
there you
Lou,
go.
there's another question from Alex. A recent client, Alex is a coach, a recent client confessed to me that he was fired for sexual harassment. What are his chances to get new employment?
Better than you might think. Because employers are very, very, very reluctant to say anything in a reference check. The problem here is that the company lawyer's job is very simple. It's like, I don't let the company get in legal trouble. And the best way to stay out of trouble is don't say anything. Don't say anything good, and especially don't say anything bad. Because if you say something bad about a former employee, conceivably you could get sued. So the fact that somebody was fired for sexual harassment might not come out on a reference check. I'm not sure from a societal point of view that that's necessarily a good thing, but it may not come out. Not necessarily.
Okay, thank you very much. And also, Charlie has a comment to make. So Charlie, please unmute.
Yeah, sometimes I get third-party verifiers calling me as the head of the PSG CNJ. We are a volunteer-run organization, and the people who help us run it are pro bono people. And I verify the fact that, yes, they've worked for us in a pro bono capacity. And very often it seems like that's a satisfier for the people seeking the information. And especially if you've mentioned that during the job interview, you say, well, what have you been doing for the last 8 months? You know, you have something to say. And they seem that third-party verifiers will only ask the dates and the position. And sometimes they will ask if it was paid or pro bono. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they don't. They have a decision tree they follow down with their questions, and sometimes they get to, after the position and the time, they say thank you very much, and then they're gone. Other times they ask the pro bono, full-time, part-time questions. So That's pretty much what, and also, the companies will, like you said, will only they'll keep themselves out of trouble. So if somebody was fired, they will not probably say anything about that. So if you were fired because you did A, B, or C, yeah, it may not be appropriate to tell them. You know.
Oh, no, I mean, there are some situations here that are real dilemmas. You know, if you were fired for any reason, and you disclose it to your prospective new employer, it's probably not going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you don't disclose it and it comes out in the reference checks, it's even worse than if you didn't disclose it. And there's no completely safe answer here. But I would say, as a general rule of thumb, if it's something within the company, it's not your credit. It's not something to do with the criminal justice system. It's just something that happened at your last job and your boss didn't like it, so they fired you. Mm-hmm. I would say the chances of that coming out in a reference check are very small, and it's probably better not to volunteer that information to the new company. Of course, it leaves you with a question of, when they say, why did you leave the other company? What are you going to say instead? But there are probably things you could say that would be plausible that wouldn't hurt you. And I'm a lawyer, so I'm not supposed to tell people to lie, but there's sometimes when just being completely transparent is self-destructive, and talking about the reason you lost your last job if you were fired is probably not a good time to be transparent. You know it's going to, George Washington may have got a pat on his head from his daddy when he confessed to chopping down the cherry tree, but that's a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to get any brownie points for your honesty in confessing why you were fired in your last job. They're just going to hold it against you, and they probably won't find out if you don't tell them.
They may not. What is in your HR records may or may not be exactly why you left the company.
No, and like I was saying before, companies they're scared to death of being sued for defamation for something they said in a reference check that might cost somebody, a former employee, a job. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Employers have been sued for defamation successfully because of something they said in a reference check. So the company lawyer says, I know how to solve that problem. We're not going to say anything except to confirm the fact that he worked here. And a lot of that can work. I used to hate it when I was trying to hire people, because the lawyers in the other company are trying to make it difficult for me to get the information I need. But from the standpoint of somebody who's had problems at his last job and is trying to find a new one, the lawyers trying to muzzle people at the last company works to your advantage. So bottom line is, if there's something bad happened that got you fired, I wouldn't disclose it. It's not, you might go wrong, but that's probably the best course to take.
Yeah, and sometimes people get fired because it is a confrontation with your supervisor, say in public, and sometimes people get fired for that.
Yeah.
And that would the company would bury that under the rug.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't disclose that. And fortunately for us, the worse it is, the less likely they are to disclose it, because the more likely they are to get sued for defamation. So the fact that it was really bad doesn't make it more likely that the company will disclose it. Those are sort of things that they least want to reveal.
Yeah.
Now, of course, there's, sorry to make it so complicated, but of course, they're also thinking if it's something really bad and we don't disclose it, maybe the new company will sue us for not telling them. But on balance, the corporate lawyers are still telling their clients, name, rank, and serial number.
Right.
Don't get into specifics. It could cause us problems.
The hiring
whatever went
company,
wrong at your last job is probably, if you don't disclose it, probably won't come out to hurt you.
yeah, the hiring company would be told by your last company, why didn't you guys do due diligence? It's not our job to run your company. You're the hiring company.
Yeah,
You know,
and
that's
what
what the lawyers at the former company would probably tell them in court.
well, and the legal argument that you should have told the new company that this guy was a sexual harasser it's a pretty weak argument legally. So company lawyers are still telling their clients, don't reveal anything except the dates of service about former employees.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to, if you did a good job, you want to get around that and have them the new company talk to your former boss. But if there's something you want to hide, the chances are the HR is not going to tell them about it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying if there's more questions, I got time.
Yep. Sam, you have a comment or question to ask, so please unmute yourself.
David, yes. As you know, I'm a recruiter, and I can say just about unequivocally, human resource people are really, really reluctant to give any information other than, as the gentleman said, name, rank, and serial number. They don't comment on why a person left. It's no accident that a good percentage of chief human resource officers, the person in charge, have a legal background. It's really their job to keep the company out of trouble, especially on a aggrieved employee suit.
Yeah, most of the people in HR aren't that far up the totem pole, and they're not going to do something different than what the company lawyer's policy is. They just aren't going to do it.
Absolutely.
Now, if you did a good job, your former boss, who's probably a fairly senior executive, he or she is not going to be quite so scared of HR, especially if you did a good job. So if you did a good job, you can usually get your former boss to tell your new boss about it. If you screwed up, the chances of HR telling your new boss about it are extremely slim. They're going to follow the rules.
Right.
I agree with that 100%.
There's also a question or comment from Pat. So if you need to clarify, the comment is, so the company doesn't look bad. They may give the employee a chance to resign. Just wondering your thought on that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that happens all the time. And except under very unusual circumstances, if they give you the chance to resign, take it. There's no difficulty in looking for a job and saying, I quit my last job. And being fired is not good. So I mean, there are rare circumstances where if you resign, they'll probably ask you to sign a waiver that you're not going to sue them for anything. If you were horribly sexually harassed by your boss, and they say they're going to fire you because they're going to let the the top guy off the hook. I'm sorry, but it works that way sometimes. You might not take the chance to resign because you'd have to give up your chance to go after them in court, and that might be too high a price to pay. But unless you've got some really serious legal issue with the company and that you want to take them to court over it, if they give you a chance to resign, they're going to fire you anyway. Take it. You know, resigning always looks better than getting fired.
The other thing to think about, and this is case by case, if you resign, you may not be eligible for unemployment insurance.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that.
Right. So, but if you're fired, you would be.
That's
And I know from my own experience, I had a package when I was let go, and I had to still sign some papers in order to get the package. So, and I challenged one thing, and they said, no, we're not changing it. Take it or leave it. So that was my experience.
Well, David, thank you for bringing that up, because I was thinking about strictly from the perspective of, from getting your new job, is it better to resign or get fired? But you're right. If you resign, you're not going to get unemployment compensation. And if you're fired, except in very rare circumstances, you do. Even if they fired you for a legitimate reason, that doesn't mean you're disqualified from unemployment compensation. You're only disqualified from unemployment compensation if you're fired for deliberate, serious misconduct. So depending on your job prospects and how badly you need the money, unfortunately, you've got to make a judgment call between how bad do I need the unemployment compensation and how much do I want to be able to say I resigned rather than got fired. You can't have your cake and eat it too on that one.
And John actually has a follow-up question. If you accept the offer to resign, how do you handle that question on a subsequent job application?
Well, it's only half the answer, because how did you leave your last job? I quit. The next question is going to be why. So you need to have some kind of an answer. Usually you can come up with, probably there was something about the job you didn't like. So but you are going to have to answer that question, and you're going to have a plausible answer. And even if the new company, if they kind of see through your story a little bit and say, yeah, I wonder, it's still marginally better than being fired. It's better to have them wonder if you really resigned than know that you were fired.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry.
So anyway, the bottom line here is, it really is a minefield in the sense that you step on one mine, that's it. You're blown up, and that's the end of the game. And it's a minefield in the sense that if you step on the drug test mine or you step on the credit check mine, it really can and frequently will cost you the job. But the good news is that you don't have to step in any of these mines. If you do things right, you can keep any of these mines from costing you the new job, and you can get that new job that you deserve. You just have to play your cards smart.
Well, thank you very much. You may want to put up your contact info slide. Yeah, Don, go ahead.
Do I?
With
There it is.
regarding to resigning, what do you think would be the best way to handle that if you're leaving because of a toxic environment?
It's a very touchy subject because employers are very leery about people that seem like malcontents or troublemakers. One thing that I talk about in my real work is whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are good people. Whistleblowers are people who said something illegal is going on and it shouldn't be happening. They're heroes. They're also pariahs. If you blow the whistle on your current employer, even if they're doing something that's clearly wrong and seriously wrong, it will put a dent in your career from which you will never completely recover. And I just bring that up to say that even malcontents that are admirable have problems on the job market. So unfortunately, saying I left my last company because it was a toxic work environment and my boss was a jerk and it's not going to play well. Instead of thinking that the other company was a bad place, they're going to think you're a complainer. That's really not a very productive answer to give, I'm sorry to say.
Certainly an option would be for anyone, as you craft the proper answers to good questions, you may want to speak to a coach who can help you through that from an interview perspective or a job search perspective.
That is a very good question for a coach.
Yeah, Lou can certainly talk to you from the legal perspective, when you have those questions as well. So great,
yeah,
thank
and
you.
The thing is, what you say, and there is no one size fits all. It's what's your experience? What kind of a job are you looking for? Where did you used to work? It's very fact specific, and I can't give you a general answer. That's exactly the kind of question, as David said, that a coach would be able to help you design the answer that's most effective for you in your situation.
Okay, well, Lou, thank you very much. If there are no other questions, yep, there are some good comments, so that was nice. Appreciate people also giving some good positive comments. Going once, going twice. Well, remember, we're going to stick around at the end of the meeting. We're going to turn off the recording, but we're going to stick around the virtual meeting room. And so you're welcome to hang around. If Lou is able to, Lou, of course, you're welcome to as well. Here's Lou's contact information that's still up on the screen. I'll leave it there for another minute or two. Plus, I did put that in chat. We will be posting the chat in a little while on our website. As always, all of our meeting presentation documents are on the main page called Meeting Presentation Documents. It's a link on the right side of every web page, so you can go download them there. We'll have links to the video, plus all of our videos that we have, over 90 of them, are on our YouTube channel, and that link is on our website as well. So Lou, thanks so much. I'm so appreciative that you continue to be a strong supporter of our group. I know you're a supporter of people who are in the job search right now and their rights. So we appreciate you extending that to us as well.
My pleasure. Glad to do it.
Thank you. Just want to let you know what's coming up here and in a couple of other places in the coming weeks. So we will be right back here next Friday morning at 10 o'clock. And so we will be posting the connection info in the email that goes out in our emailing list and on our website's event calendar. So next week, March 11th, I'll be the presenter and we will be talking about interview preparation and tips. And by the way, no, I don't just put myself in as presenter for sales purposes, but we had a late cancellation and the easiest thing was for me to wear another hat next week. So we're going to talk about interview preparation and tips, and it's also going to cover some good tips for virtual interviewing as well. The following week is March 18th, and we have a panel, a group of panelists, or some of us are even calling it a forum, Job Skills Toolkit Panel. It is not a set of panelists, there are 4 panelists, it's not panelists all of one profession. It's not just 4 coaches or 4 HR people or 4 recruiters. It's 4 different areas of expertise in job search that can talk about all the different skills needed in your toolkit for job search. So we will be having that in 2 weeks on March 18th. So that's what's coming up very soon. Also, our cousin organizations, PSG of Central New Jersey, meets on Mondays at 10:30. unless there's a Monday holiday. And so they will be meeting Monday at 10:30. Ralph Adraccio will be the self-talk show manifesting your magnificent inner monologue. So it'd be nice to hear that presentation. And PSG of Morris County, our other cousin organization, meets Wednesdays at 9:30 in the morning, and that's psgmc.org. They open their mics a little bit early, close to 8:30 if you want to join early. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention PSG of Central New Jersey is psgcnj.biz. Get all the information from those two websites. Okay, so that is our meeting for today. Want to once again thanks Lou for coming around and visiting with us. And simply we'll say until we get to see you all next time, we'll say bye, everybody.